Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The dictionary definition for the word frothy is unsubstantial. So when trying to help alcoholics achieve long-term sobriety, unsubstantial, frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. The dictionary definition for the word depth is 1. Complexity or obscurity, as of a complex or obscure subject, a question of great depth. 2. Gravity, seriousness. Therefore, depth in this context means complex, obscure, and very serious. The dictionary definition for the word weight is importance or consequence, a matter of great weight. The dictionary definition for the word message is a communication delivered in writing. Alcoholics need something more than frothy, unsubstantial emotional appeal to overcome alcoholism. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. In many circumstances, an alcoholic's working with a professional therapist is essential in helping the alcoholic work through some of their additional psychological or emotional problems. But working with a professional in itself is not enough to help an alcoholic achieve long-term sobriety. More so, the point the doctor wants to make clear is, hanging out at AA meetings is a very good idea for any alcoholic, but sharing and listening at meetings will not help an alcoholic to achieve sobriety. Sobriety in this context means the alcoholic has had a spiritual experience, is growing their spiritual experience, and in having done so, has recovered, or more specifically, no longer has what is referred to later in the book as still having an alcoholic mind. Dr. Silkworth saw the hopeless patients at Towns Hospital writing deep, extensive, substantial, weighty inventories. Dr. Silkworth learned that thorough inventory writing was an essential component in the recipe that leads to the essential effective spiritual experience. Depth in the preceding statement refers to the inventories going deep, and weight refers to a lot of going deep when writing inventories. The word message is referring to the message or recipe described in the Big Book. The message, delivered in writing via the Big Book, is meant to be delivered to a suffering alcoholic from an experienced alcoholic, one who has had the spiritual experience or spiritual awakening as the result of working the steps. Like a cookbook with written recipes in it, the Big Book carries the recipe for a spiritual experience or spiritual awakening. No other book carries such a message or recipe. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. If any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line. See the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments, and the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel, after many years of experience, that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. Alcoholics drink for effect. The dictionary definition of the word effect is accomplishment, fulfillment. Alcoholics drink to accomplish something. They drink for fulfillment. Non-alcoholics drink recreationally. Non-alcoholics do not drink for effect or to accomplish something, or for outright total fulfillment. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false. Although they know when they drink they hurt others and themselves, they completely lose sight of this fact when their alcoholic craving and obsession sets in after they start drinking. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. Drinking with impunity means drinking without consequence. Most alcoholics often experience negative consequences as a result of their drinking. Normal non-alcoholic people ordinarily drink without consequence. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. What AA refers to as a spiritual experience, Dr. Silkworth calls an entire psychic change. After decades of watching hopeless alcoholics get locked up, go insane, and die from the disease, Dr. Silkworth knew that unless an alcoholic could experience an entire psychic change, there was very little hope of his recovery. On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. Notice that what AA calls suggestions, Dr. Silkworth calls simple rules. Although Dr. Silkworth is aware that, in general, alcoholics dislike rules, he does not refrain from using the word rules when giving his professional medical opinion. Men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal, "Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop, but I cannot. You must help me." Faced with this problem, if a doctor is honest with himself, he must sometimes feel his own inadequacy. Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. One feels that something more than human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change. Though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable, we physicians must admit we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. I have had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date favorable to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to that date, and then the phenomenon of craving at once became paramount to all other interests so that the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape, they were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. There are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight. The classification of alcoholics seems most difficult and in much detail is outside the scope of this book. Keep in mind Dr. Silkworth is a doctor who carries out the duties of his job methodically. Classifying alcoholics is a part of the doctor's job, so he mentions his findings. There are, of course, the psychopaths who are emotionally unstable. We are all familiar with this type. They are always going on the wagon for keeps. They are over-remorseful and make many resolutions but never a decision. There is the type of man who is unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand or his environment. There is the type who always believes that after being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger. There is the manic-depressive type who is perhaps the least understood by his friends, and about whom a whole chapter could be written. Then there are types entirely normal in every respect except in the effect alcohol has upon them. They are often able, intelligent, friendly people.